Salut, salut, bonjour classe. Nous avons une petite leçon aujourd'hui du pronom I et c'est parfait parce que nous étudions le verbe vivre, to live. Alors, commençons. Before we get started, we want to remind ourselves a little bit about pronouns. A pronoun takes the place of a noun in a sentence. So, for example, we learned je vois Marc, I see Marc, and the pronoun replaces Marc, je le vois. So that's what we have done. We had Marc in our sentence, we took it out and replaced it with him. All right, so now our pronoun I. You've actually used a lot with the expression il, ia, there is or there are, but you've probably never really realized that the letter Y could stand by itself. It means there, and all sorts of different, things like there. It's going to replace a preposition and the name of some place that was previously mentioned. Now, the question is, well, what's a preposition? Preposition is a directional word. It shows location. In French, we have a whole bunch, and this is not an exclusive list. There are more, but some examples include à, to or at, en, in or at, dans, in, like literally inside of, sur, on top of, chez, at the house of, derrière, behind, devant, in front of, sous, under, à côté de, next to. Remember we had our song, sur, sous, dans, devant, derrière, devant, derrière, devant, derrière, sur, sous, dans, devant, derrière, à côté de. Those were our prepositions, and like I said, there are more, but those are some of our frequently used ones. So, voilà des exemples de pronoms I dans les phrases. Voilà. Je vais à l'école. I am going to school. School is a place. So I'm not just replacing the preposition, but I'm replacing whatever follows it, the place. J'y vais, which you have to recognize that Y in this sense is functioning as a vowel. It has a vowel sound, so it becomes j'y vais. Le livre est sur la table. The book is on the table. Le livre y est. The book is there. Elle n'habite pas en France. She does not live in France. Elle n'y habite pas. We're going to talk about placement of the pronouns, but I wanted you to see how it replaces the preposition and then whatever place it is that's following it. All right. Something else to keep in mind is that this is kind of weird, but sometimes E can replace things and animals. E will never, ever, ever, will it ever replace a person. E replaces things, places, and it's kind of debated by some people. Some people think you can use animals with direct objects, but most people, most grammar sites will say that E has to replace animals too. So sorry for all you animal rights activists out there. So here's an example of E replacing a plus a thing. And then in this case, instead of there, it would mean it or about it. It's used most frequently with the verb penser, to think. So je pense à mes vacances, I'm thinking about my vacation. J'y pense, I'm thinking about it. So this is a little different version of the pronoun E. So here's some things to try. Say where each person lives using I and vivre. So we're going to practice vivre. Replace habite with vivre. And then if it's positive, use I, keep it the same. If it's negative, use the ne and the pas. So for example, Marc habite aux États-Unis. And we got our smiley face. So oui, il y vit. Here are a couple more for you to try. So pause the video and write them out. You're not pausing. No, really, just pause the video. Okay, good job. How did they come out? For numéro 2, you should have written Jean et Marc y vivent. For numéro 3, it would be nous n'y habitons pas. 4 would be tu y habites, or if you answered in the je form, j'y habite. And 5 would be vous n'y habitez pas, or if you did it in the new form, nous y habitons pas. Good job. All right, the most important thing to remember is where do these pronouns go, and that's what's a little difficult. They always go before the conjugated verb. I'm not making these rules up, peeps, I swear. These are the same rules that we were working with when we had le and la and lui and l'air and me and te and nous and vous. These rules have not changed. It's just sometimes we forget them. So here are some examples of situations where we would have a conjugated verb and we will put it in front. The present tense. Tu y vis. You live there. The passé composé. I know we have two parts, but we have avoir or we have être, and they are conjugated verbs. So, tu y as vécu. You lived there. A, right here, this is my conjugated verb, so I put y in front of it. The last situation is a negative command. So, here's my conjugated verb vis, and then here's my pronoun. N'y vis pas. Don't live there. Speaking of negatives, if we want to make this present tense one negative, tu n'y vis pas. What you have to remember is the pronoun and the verb stick together, so the ne and pas go around it, and they make a nice big hug. Yay! This is true love right here, the pronoun and the verb, remember? Here's our passé composé example, keeping in mind that avoir is my conjugated verb. We cannot separate the pronoun and the conjugated verb, so the ne and the pas go around. Tu n'y as pas, oh crap, I have the wrong A. Tu n'y as pas vécu, this should be AS. Oh, don't tell me. Alright, some more examples of placements of pronouns where it's not going to go in front of the conjugated verb is when we see an infinitive. Remember, infinitives ends in ER, IR, or RE. So here's an example. Tu vas y vivre. This is the future proche. You are going to live there. Now, it doesn't have to be aller plus the infinitive. Here are some other examples of verbs that are followed by an infinitive. For example, tu veux y vivre. You want to live there. Tu dois y vivre. You have to live there. Tu peux y vivre. You are able to live there. So this is vouloir, devoir, pouvoir, and even falloir too. Il faut y vivre. It's necessary to live there. And here's an example of the negative. The negative also always goes around the conjugated verb. So because my pronoun is in front of my infinitive, it doesn't interact with the ne and pas in this situation. Alright, well that's no fun, no animation. The last situation is when I have a positive command. Alright, and in this case, the pronoun goes after. So if I wanted to say live there, I would say vivez-y. Or go there, allez-y. So we throw it right after, and yes, you do have to have the hyphen, it's essential. Now, the crazy thing is, if you think back to when we first learned our commands, our imperative form, in the to form of ER verbs, I told you to drop the S, and that was just a crazy weird rule. Well, speaking of crazy weird rules, that S is going to come back to help out with our sound. So instead of here saying va-y, we put the S in so it can go vas-y. And it has a better flow to it that makes that liaison, the Z sound. Okay, so we have hit up it all with our placement of our pronouns, how to use the pronoun y, and you guys are ready to go. Au revoir.